the dilemma for many of us in search, and I think you touched on this earlier, is what to put in, what to leave out. I'll be specific. You're looking at your resume and you love the last dozen jobs that you've done. You rocked it as the chief of this and a VP of that. And you did different roles and you see yourself a certain way and see some form of career narrative. It all works together. And yet, in the end, you want to be considered for something very specific. Maybe the CMO role, not maybe the CTO role. Maybe you're good at bunches of things. How do you bring it down to something focused when, as you look at your career history, it looks pretty illustrative. You've done a lot. You're proud of a lot. Tough choices, or is there some simple approach to whittling it down to the most concentrated version of you that you can possibly present?
Well, let me just start by saying this. I remember several years ago working on my own resume and getting so nauseous that I had to shut down my computer. I thought I was coming down with something, and then I shut down my computer and I felt better. And I realized that working on my own resume did make me nauseous. And that was kind of another epiphany for me too, is that as human beings, we can't be objective. We can't see ourselves as well as the outside world sees us, at least when the outside world is our audience. Okay, and face it, if you're trying to market yourself, that outside audience is the market. Okay, but all these accomplishments that we've had, we've created identity around that, and that becomes very hard to let go. And this, whether it's the resume or how you're interviewing, or it all starts with understanding the value proposition. One of the rules we had as a headhunter is you never let your C-level people go into an interview without doing a full interview preparation. And primarily that was because of that overwhelming desire to want to focus on the stuff you've done, you know, and do what I call the executive mic drop. See what I've done? And in reality, that's not the benefit. That's just the stuff that you feel strongly about. And detaching from that is something that is pretty much universally, at least once you get to the stage where you've done a lot of stuff, like the executive level, you know, it's pretty straightforward. And in the 97%, you can just point at your skills and experiences and say, okay, you figure it out, and they'll get it. They really will get it because they've done your job. If I was working with a CFO and they were hiring a controller, well, he's done that job. So he can very easily understand if she's got what it takes to do the job. Now I'm dealing with a CEO, hiring a CFO, well, he doesn't really know. And so you have to really lead with that value story. So whether that is in your resume or that's in your conversation, it is not going to be within your human nature to want to detach from talking about stuff that you've done, which is why, you know, as headhunters, we had to work with people on these things, because otherwise we would see a $50,000 placement fee go bye-bye. And, you know, that's not cool for anybody. But the reality is that it's the same reason that doctors don't diagnose themselves. You can't be objective. You can't diagnose what's wrong with you, what you need, and be objective. Lawyers don't represent themselves in court. And so what we do is we focus on, okay, let's dump all those puzzle pieces out. Let's take all your skills, all your characteristics, everything you've ever done, you know, including the fact that, you know, maybe you're in the military. That wasn't even on your resume. That's part of who you are now. And let's put the value story around that, not only so it's a benefit and an ROI to the market that we're going after, but actually it's unique. And then we let that guide the process to what goes on the resume. If it's supporting the value story, we go way back. If it's not supporting the value story, that probably doesn't need that much definition. But that narrative has to be very clear. And that narrative, you're just going to spin yourself in a circle trying to figure it out yourself.